As you can see, 2/3 of the class out. Had no idea it would be this many, but we're gonna make do. Before we get into what I want to do with you prior to tomorrow's test, are there any questions about the test tomorrow? Or about the how it's going to work or anything? What you'll need, anything?
What time do we have to be there again?
It's a late start.
Auditorium, right?
Yes, meet in front of the auditorium. It's a late start, so you need to be there at 9. The test will start a little bit before 9. The test will start at 9.
What time does it end?
Well, because we're getting a late start, it will probably end around 1 or 1:30. Okay. I would suggest wear layers. There's air conditioning up there, but have a sweatshirt or a jacket or something if you need to put it on, and then not if you need to take it off. They will provide you with pens and pencils, but it's always a good idea to have your own. There will be a break between the multiple choice and the essays. So if you want to bring a snack for that time, you'll probably have about 10 minutes where you can run to the bathroom and eat your snack out in the hall or something, and then resume the test. I will meet you guys over there in the morning. We'll be bringing donuts again. So if you want a donut, you'll have that sugar rush in the morning. Did everyone turn in their form to be excused after the test? Any questions on the test itself or what we've been studying all year that you feel like we need to brush up on? You gotta think what you're trying to do to me. You gotta think.
Let's go back, let's go back, let's go way on the way back when.
Zach, anything? Feel good? Yeah. So what would help make you feel great? Besides food?
Getting the answer.
Let me ask you this. Nayeli, what is your plan for multiple choice? Like do you have a strategy?
Scan the questions first.
Okay.
Read the passage.
So you scan the questions first and then read the passage. Jasmine, what about you?
I do the same thing, and then I do the elimination method, and I'm like, what step?
When you're doing elimination, what are we looking for?
Like, I mostly rule out which ones don't relate.
Perfect. Yeah.
For the questions.
Yeah. So we're looking for the wrong answer or any part thereof so we can just cross it off, right? And I think if we do that, we'll be able to eliminate 3, maybe even 4 of them. It's important that when you do read the passage, you are trying to get just the plot, the main idea, whether it's a poem, whether it's a prose, but we just want to get the main idea of that. Okay, multiple choice. What about essay then? What are the 3 essay types we'll be writing? Carla, give me one.
Let's see, like examples we had yesterday, where we like compare.
And what were we comparing yesterday?
I remember the houses.
Okay.
Like, for example, we did the great Gatsby, so we were comparing the East Egg or the West Egg.
Okay. So what is that? What style of writing? Like what type of essay are you writing with that? Where you have a list of books to choose from, or choose one of your own and write about this, whatever aspect they gave you yesterday was houses, right? What type of essay do you need to write for that? Are you writing like a book report on the book?
Yeah.
So then what is the rubric? What are they grading you on?
On the analysis, or whatever it's asking.
Okay, let's break this down really fast. You can get 1 point for what in your essay? Thesis. And it's you have it or you don't. Okay, there's no in between. So your thesis statement, and if you're writing a thesis statement, then you're getting 4 points for what? What's the main part?
Line of reasoning?
Your lines of reasoning. Thank you. So you have your topic sentence or your claim, then you have your evidence, and then you have all your commentary that explains how they relate. Yesterday it would have been, here's what I'm saying about the house in, you said The Great Gatsby, in The Great Gatsby. Here's some evidence, and I don't have the book in front of me, so I can't quote it. I'm just going to explain it to you. And now I'm going to talk about how that evidence supports what I said, why I said the house is important in The Great Gatsby. Okay? And then I repeat that process. In the next paragraph, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to make a different claim. Not only does the house, not only is Gatsby's house important to all of the people around because it hosts the parties every single week, but I also want to make a claim that it's even more important to Gatsby because he's trying to win back his love. And he thinks that's a way to do it. So now I'm going to make a claim, then I'm going to give evidence of it, and then I'm going to, again, talk about how it helps support my original thesis. Okay, and then what's the last point for? And it's 1 point if we get it or we don't. Yeah, it's for sophistication. Not only how well we write the argument, because they are looking at your writing to see if your writing is where it needs to be, but also your thought process. Like, how are you putting your ideas together? How are you organizing it? Okay, so 6 points. One essay, write on a book, write on a novel. What's another type of essay? By the way, that would be like an argument. We're arguing that the house in Gatsby is important to the overall message or the theme, and that message is blank. Okay, so what's another type of essay we're writing? We've been studying a lot lately. What is it? Yes, poetry. Good. You're going to get 1 poem, maybe 2, and you're going to be asked to write on it. And most likely that prompt will look like, read the poem, identify what it's saying, and how is the speaker, or it might say the poet. How are they saying what they're saying? What devices are they using? It may not say what devices, but that's what it means. It means, like, how do you identify the makings of this poem? Through form, through structure, through metaphor, through rhyme scheme, through meter, through imagery, through figurative language, through whatever. Okay? All right, we're missing one essay now. What is it? The last type you're going to see. It'll probably be the first one you see. The poetry one might be first, but usually this other one's first. Does anyone know? You know what? Perfect segue then into that prompt. This is it right here. This is the type of essay, the other type that you're going to see. Now, they're going to give you a fictional prose passage. So it's not poetry. It's not on a novel. It's just an excerpt from a passage that they want you to read and analyze. And this is your fictional analysis essay. So essentially, you're, again, arguing. Remember, Heinrich says everything is an argument. So you want to read it quickly, annotate on it, break it down, figure out what it's saying, and then write your essay. What if you read this? Actually, let's read it first, and then I'll ask that question. Jet, can you read the prompt for us, please?
In the following excerpt from a recent British novel, the narrator, a young man named Louis, wanted to determine the girlfriend with Scott. He unexpectedly discovers that her parents are in the theater. Read the passage carefully, then write an essay in which you analyze how the author produces a comic effect.
Okay. Quickly mark what is important in that prompt. What do you need to know in that prompt to give yourself a shot on this essay? Okay, what is it? What do we need to know? Who can tell me? David. Okay, so what do you know about the passage already?
Oh, it's about a guy attending to play with his girlfriend.
Okay, it's about a guy attending a play with his girlfriend. And what else did you just say that tells us a little bit more about the passage?
Unexpectedly, the story of her parents are.
Okay, unexpectedly find out that her parents are there. What was the last thing, or the first thing you said? It's in the last of the end of the prompt.
Comic. Right.
Yeah, we're looking at comedy here. So if you read this and you don't recognize comedy, actually I would say this. As you read it, look for that comedy. What is making this comedic? So the prompt tells us, actually we get a lot from this prompt. It's a young man in his early 20s. He's at a play with his new girlfriend Isabel when she discovers that her parents are there. And then how does the author produce a comic effect of this? So we have the setting, right? We have the scene. Boyfriend, girlfriend, at a play, her parents are there, and she wasn't expecting that. Can anyone relate? Can you see how that might turn funny if that were you on a date and you all of a sudden realize your parents are there too? Who would like to read for us? Sage, perfect. I'm going to bring this mic over to you so that I'm recording this for the absentees. I'm just going to set it right here. Okay, they can hear you read it. All right, take it away.
Okay. Oh my god, I think that's my mum over there, she gasped. Where? By the pillar. Careful, don't look. What is she doing here? And what's that dress? It looks like a willow tree. Where's Dad? I hope she didn't come with one of her gentleman friends. She's really too old for that. Did you tell her you were going? No, I mean, I said I wanted to see the play, but I didn't let on I had tickets for tonight. She's talking to someone. Can you see? Phew, it's my dad. He must have gone off to buy programs, and he's about to sneeze. Look there. Achoo! Out comes his red handkerchief. I just hope they don't spot us when we can escape quickly at the end. With any luck, they'll be too busy arguing to glance up here. This is prime argument territory for them. Mom will be asking Dad where he put the car park ticket, and he'll get flustered because he'll just have dropped it into a bin by mistake. Luck was.
Stop for just a minute. So as she's reading, you already know the prompt is asking how the author produces comic effect. Be looking for that, mark it, underline it, circle it, something like, oh, this is one of those moments. And see what you can find, because then you can use that as evidence in your essay. Okay, say it.
Lucky was not on Isabel's side. For a moment later, Christopher Rogers happened to glance up to the gallery and recognize his eldest daughter, in the midst of trying her best not to recognize him. So that she might cease to dwell in ignorance, Christopher stood up in the middle of the elegantly suited and scented audience and began making the vigorous hand gestures of a man waving off a departing cruise ship. In case Isabel had not spotted this maniac, her mother was in turn informed of her eldest daughter's location and decided that the presence of 400 people in the auditorium should be no impediment to her desire to shout "Isabel" at top pitch, and with all the excitement of a woman recognizing a long-lost friend on the deck of an incoming cruise ship. Isabel smiled feebly, turned a beetroot shade, and repeated in panicked diction, "I can't believe this. Please let them shut up." Not a second too soon, Lorca came to the rescue. The lights faded, and Mr. and Mrs. Rogers reluctantly took their seats, pointing ominously to an exit sign by wave of interval rendezvous. An hour and a quarter of Spanish domestic drama later, we found ourselves at the bar. "What are you doing here, Mom?" asked Isabel. "Why shouldn't I be here? You're not the only one who does fancy things with your evenings. Your father and I have a right to go out once in a while." "I'm sure I didn't mean it like that. It's just I'm surprised at the coincidence." "Where did you buy this dress? Is that the one I paid for at Christmas?" "No, Mom, I got it myself last week." "Oh, well, it's very nice. Pity you don't have more of a cleavage for it, but that's your father's fault. You know what all the women in this family are like." How are you, Dad?" Isabel turned to ask her father, who was looking up at the ceiling with an intent expression. "Dad?" repeated Isabel. "Yes, darling, how are you, my bean? Enjoying the show?" "Yup, and you? What are you staring at up there?" "I'm looking at the light fixtures they have. They're new tungsten bulbs, Japanese things, quite wonderful. They only use a small amount of electricity, but give off a very nice light." "Oh, great, Dad. And, there's someone I'd like you both to meet." "Delighted," said Mr. Rogers, confiding in me almost at once. "She's a lovely girl, really, in case my theater companion had inspired doubts to the contrary." "Thanks, Mom," said Isabel wearily, as though the statement were no one off. "Don't mind her being. She's had a hard day," explained Dad, now looking more horizontally at the world. "My dad would be fine if I wasn't lumbered with someone who kept losing tickets to the car park," snapped Mrs. Rogers. "Oh, my day would be fine, sorry." "Dad, you haven't." "Yes, I'm afraid I have. They're so fiddly these days. They fall right out of one's hands."
Perfect. Okay, what did we mark? Christina, what did you mark?
I marked the part where she sees his ass and he starts making the mom
Gestures of a man on a departing cruise. What does that look like, Christina? Right? And where are they? And what type of theater is it? A Spanish domestic drama by whom? What did it say with the asterisks? Lorca. So it sounds like a pretty fancy place. Imagine then, like, remember contrasts are what really make things stand out? Him standing up, like, leaving on a cruise ship, waving the arms in a really fancy theater. Right? I mean, that's kind of funny. Right? Okay, what else did we mark? Melissa? Isn't that exactly what you want your mom to say when she's meeting your boyfriend for the first time? Right? Yeah, that is funny. What else, Alicia, did we say? Yeah, why is that funny?
Because his dad sings things really loudly.
Loudly? Yes. And, it's funny that the daughter is like narrating their actions for them. It's like she knows exactly what they're going to do. She's probably been through this many times before. And so she anticipates and she knows, and you can just imagine her rolling her eyes at this. What do we know about their relationship, the boy and the girl? Which enhances the comedic effect.
Oh, the people that are dating?
Yeah. It's new. Yeah, it's new. It's not like he doesn't know the family at all. But the prompt tells us, the narrator, a young man in his early 20s, is attending a play with his new girlfriend, Isabel. And you know how awkward that is then. Not only are they, she's like, my parents are here and I know what's going to happen. My dad's going to do this and my mom's going to do that. And look, there it is. See, I told you. Like all of this. It's a good thing she didn't come with one of her, or was it him or her, didn't come with their lady friends or something like that. It's like, what? What's that?
It's in the first paragraph. One of her gentlemen
Yeah, one of her gentleman friends. Like, instead of my dad. I hope she's with my dad and not some other dude, right? Who's narrating? The boyfriend is narrating. So, all of this is his perception too. Right? Discovers that her parents are in the theater, read the passage carefully, write an essay on how you analyze how the author produces. So what would we say then? What is the comic effect here? How does the author create this? We've got about 2 minutes left for this discussion. Okay, yes, dialogue. Perfect. That would be something good to look at. The dialogue of the girlfriend is just so typical for this kind of a situation. Right? She's not, oh, hey, look, there are my parents. Hey, no. Right? That wouldn't be funny then. She's like devastated that she runs into her parents at this place. What's another way? Daniela, how else does the author create a comic effect here?
The situational, thing of, how it's, a very elegant place and the parents are, being really loud and, that would be what fit in.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't quite fit. So what would we say about that? What would we talk about? What would we call that? Okay, good. Absolutely right. Are there any terms we know that we could use for that? Literary terms. What's one of the, and there actually are a few, it's not like there's just one. What would be one of the ones you would know that you could say, you know what, this is what's happening here? You're explaining it. What's something you know that you could say, okay, this is what's happening in this situation? What are we seeing? Anyone? So are we seeing differences? Are we seeing a setting that is one way and then the way they're acting is different than what the setting calls for? Okay, so what's a word you know that shows differences? Okay, contrast is one, right? You could say the contrast between the setting and the actions. Boom. You could also, what do we do when we have differences that are side by side like that? What is that called? That's probably what you're thinking of. Juxtaposition, right? They are juxtaposed. The images or the imagery that we're seeing in this setting juxtaposes with the setting itself. They contrast. They're different, which adds to the comic effect of the passage. So we have dialogue, we have contrasts, you could even talk about the imagery, right? What else?
Does foreshadow do one?
Foreshadowing. Explain.
She says that Dad, where he put the car ticket, and he will get flustered because he all dropped it into a bin. And at the end, he says, "Who kept moving the tickets to the car park?"
She calls it, right? Yeah, she calls it. So absolutely. Because who created that? The author did. And it wants to know how the author does this. Well, the author then foreshadows that event that happens at the end through Isabel. Now, if we didn't get that in the end, obviously it wouldn't be foreshadowing in this passage. But in this passage, it's kind of unique to have foreshadowing in a really small passage like this. Usually foreshadowing is, it's waiting for something much further down the line, but it's laying the groundwork for it. Here in this passage, we get it at the beginning, and by the end, we've figured out that that's indeed what has happened. Let's take one more. Good. And that's funny because it's like, yeah, I can imagine the boyfriend and the girlfriend, because she's already said, I bet this is what happened. And then when he says, or when they say, yeah, this is what happened, looking at each other like, yeah, you called that, didn't you? Like, it's funny. Okay, one more. What's one more thing we could talk about as to how this produces a comic effect?
I think like the little comments the mom had made.
Which comment particular?
The one that I had mentioned before, like the putting in the harmony cleavage for it. Like,
Oh, the cleavage. Yeah. Like, again, we're talking about appropriateness, right? They are at a very formal, elegant place. And everything about these parents, and not just the parents. Think about Isabel, how she's acting too. Like, she's calling everything out. Like, look at this. In the very beginning, by the pillar, careful, don't look. What is she doing here? Like, she's acting the same way her parents are, which also is funny. And what's that dress? Like, that to me is kind of like, yeah. Like, again, we're talking about appropriateness, right? They are at a very formal, elegant place. And everything about these parents, and not just the parents. Think about Isabel, how she's acting too. Like, she's calling everything out. Like, look at this. In the very beginning, by the pillar, careful, don't look. What is she doing here? Like, she's acting the same way her parents are, which also is funny. And what's that dress? Like, that to me is kind of like, too bad you don't have a cleavage for it, right? Like, she's critiquing or judging her mother to her boyfriend. And that's what her mother does to her boyfriend when she's... So it's like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree here. Yeah.
oh no, I was just thinking about like how like a lot of times like things seem to be so much funnier when they're not supposed to be. Like I feel like in a place like where it's more like not necessarily a formal event, but like where you don't necessarily like laugh about this kind of thing, they seem to be sometimes more funnier. So putting comedy in a more formal matter makes it that much more funnier. So it adds for like comedic relief or like.
Absolutely. If you've ever had the giggles when it is totally inappropriate, but you just can't stop. Like, whatever you're thinking about, you just laugh at, you can't control it. And it seems harder to even do when it is completely the inappropriate time, right? It's like, if you get the giggles at that time, forget it. So, although we're not rolling on the floor laughing about this, we can definitely see, I mean, to me, this seems like this would be a great sitcom, right? Like, all of these characters seem archetypal. Like, they are your stereotypical bumbling, fumbling dad who loses everything, staring at the tungsten light saying, oh, look at the light bulbs. Like, aren't these interesting? And then you've got mom who's mom and daughter who seem to be pretty much alike, and the way they talk have no filter. They just say whatever they're thinking, right? And you got this boyfriend. It would be interesting to see, how he's dealing with all of this. I wonder if they're still going out after this experience. But any questions on this? No? Do you feel like you understood that very fast analysis of this and what you're looking for tomorrow? Okay, just remember, it all starts in the prompt. What information can you glean from the prompt, and then look for that as you read. And this passage here was pretty contemporary. It may not be. It may be. I will say that it seems like the last several have been newer within the last decade or two. So it's not the language that's hard, but we have to get beneath the surface on it. Right? We have to dig deep. We have to look for those aha moments. Oh, yeah, this is good. I could talk about this. Right? Where your reader who's reading, who will either be a college professor or an AP English teacher from somewhere in the world, they bring in readers from Saudi Arabia, from Africa, from all over, right? So keep that in mind as you write. What are they going to look at and say, ooh, this is good, this student? understands what they're saying here. Okay, let's move on then.